There comes a moment in every life when a person must decide whether they will chase attention or pursue purpose, whether they will speak loudly about what they plan to do or quietly become what they were meant to be. The world we live in is filled with noise, opinions, and constant pressure to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized before anything has truly been built. But real strength does not beg for attention. Real growth does not need an audience. There is a deeper power found in stillness, in patience, in walking a path that is guided not by applause, but by conviction. Too often, people give away their dreams before they have even taken shape. They talk about goals, they announce plans, they seek validation from others who may not understand the journey ahead. And in doing so, they weaken the very foundation they are trying to build. Because when you speak too soon, you invite doubt, distraction, and unnecessary pressure into something that requires focus, faith, and discipline. What you are building in your life deserves protection. It deserves quiet dedication, not constant exposure. There is something sacred about working in silence. It is in those quiet moments, away from the spotlight, that character is formed, that discipline is tested, that true growth takes place. No one sees the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, the struggles, and the setbacks. No one hears the inner battles you fight when you feel like giving up but choose to keep going. And that is where the real transformation happens. Not in the noise, but in the unseen effort that shapes who you are becoming. You see, results have a voice that cannot be ignored. They do not need explanation. They do not require defense. And they do not ask for permission to be acknowledged. When the work is done, when the growth is real, when the success is earned, it will speak for itself in a way that no words ever could. And when that moment comes, it will not just make noise, it will echo with power, with truth, and with undeniable evidence of what quiet persistence can achieve. So there is a call today to step away from the need to announce every move, to release the desire for constant validation, and to embrace the strength that comes from silent progress. There is a call to trust the process, to remain focused when no one is watching, and to build something so strong that when it finally reveals itself, it leaves no room for doubt. Because in the end, it is not what you say that defines you, it is what you do consistently, quietly and faithfully that shapes your destiny. There is a kind of power that doesn't need permission, a kind of strength that doesn't announce itself when it walks into the room. And that power is built in silence, shaped in discipline, and revealed only when the work is done and the results are undeniable. Because when you choose to work quietly, you remove yourself from the distractions that come with trying to impress people, and you begin to focus on something far greater than approval. You begin to focus on purpose, on growth, on becoming the kind of person whose presence speaks long before any words are ever needed. Too many people spend their energy talking about what they're going to do, laying out plans for the world to hear, hoping for applause before they've even taken the first real step. But here's the truth. Talking doesn't build anything. Intention without action is just noise. And noise fades quickly. But results, real results, they echo, they carry weight. They leave an impression that cannot be erased because they are backed by effort, by sacrifice, by consistency, that most people are not willing to commit to. When you decide to work quietly, you make a commitment to yourself that your focus will not be broken by outside opinions, that your drive will not depend on validation, and that your progress will not be measured by how many people notice you, but by how far you've come from where you started. And that kind of mindset changes everything, because it forces you to take responsibility for your own growth. It forces you to show up every single day, whether you feel like it or not, whether anyone is watching or not, and that's where greatness begins to take shape. There will be days when nobody claps for you, days when your efforts go unseen, days when it feels like you're putting in work and getting nothing back. And in those moments, your character is being tested, your discipline is being sharpened, because it's easy to stay motivated when people are cheering. But it takes something deeper, something stronger to keep going when it's just you and your purpose. When the only voice pushing you forward is the one inside your own mind, telling you not to quit, not to settle, not to break under pressure. Working quietly is not about hiding. It's about building. It's about understanding that the process is sacred, that what you are creating in your life deserves your full attention, your full effort, without interruption from doubt, negativity, or unnecessary opinions, because not everyone needs to know your next move. Not everyone deserves access to your vision. Not everyone deserves access to your vision. And sometimes the best thing you can do is keep your head down, stay focused, and let your actions do the talking. There is a discipline in silence that most people overlook, a kind of mental toughness that grows when you learn to rely on your own standards instead of external praise. And that discipline becomes your foundation. It becomes the thing that holds you steady when challenges come your way, because they will come. Obstacles will appear, setbacks will test your patience, and there will be moments when you question whether it's all worth it. But if you've built yourself in silence, if you've trained your mind to stay locked in on the mission, then nothing can shake you because your strength was never dependent on outside noise in the first place. And then one day, without warning, the results begin to show, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a steady, undeniable presence that people can't ignore. Your work starts to speak for you, your growth becomes visible, your consistency starts to pay off. And those same people who never saw the struggle, who never understood the process, they begin to notice, they begin to ask questions. They begin to recognize something different about you, something real, something earned. And that's when your success starts making noise, not because you forced it to, but because it was built on a foundation too strong to stay hidden. But even in that moment, even when the results are speaking loudly, there is a lesson to remember. Stay grounded, stay focused. Don't let the noise pull you away from the habits that got you there. Because success is not a destination. It's a responsibility. It's something you have to maintain, something you have to protect. And the same silence that helped you build it will help you sustain it. There is a certain respect that comes with quiet work, a kind of presence that doesn't need to prove itself, because it has already done the work behind the scenes. And when you carry yourself that way, when you move with intention instead of seeking attention, people feel it, they recognize it, not because you told them, but because your results made it clear. So you have to ask yourself, are you working for recognition, or are you working for transformation? Are you speaking to be heard, or are you building to be remembered? Because those are two very different paths. One leads to temporary validation, the other leads to lasting impact. And the choice you make will determine not just what you achieve, but who you become in the process. Keep your focus sharp, keep your standards high, and understand that every quiet step you take, every unseen hour you invest, every sacrifice you make when no one is watching, it all adds up, it all matters, and one day, it will all be visible. Not because you demanded attention, but because your results earned it. And when that day comes, you won't need to say a word because everything you've built will speak for you louder than anything you could ever say. There is a difference between talking about change and becoming change, a difference between wishing for greatness and show I. NG up every single day to earn it, and that difference is built on two unshakable pillars, discipline and consistency, the kind that doesn't depend on how you feel, the kind that doesn't fade when things get hard, the kind that shows up in your life like a promise you refuse to break, because when discipline becomes your foundation and consistency becomes your rhythm, you no longer need to speak about your intentions. Your actions begin to declare exactly who you are becoming. Too many people wait for motivation to carry them. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, the perfect mood, the perfect conditions, but life doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who move, those who decide that no matter how they feel, they will take the next step forward, because discipline is not about excitement. It's about commitment. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when every part of you would rather stay comfortable. And that's where the real shift happens. That's where you separate yourself from the crowd. Consistency is what turns small actions into powerful results. It's the quiet force that builds momentum, day after day, step by step, until what once felt impossible becomes your new standard. And the truth is, most people underestimate the power of showing up regularly. They look for big breakthroughs while ignoring the small daily efforts that actually create lasting change. But those small efforts, repeated with focus and intention, they compound into something unstoppable, something that cannot be denied. When you allow discipline and consistency to guide your life, you begin to trust yourself in a different way. You stop making excuses. You stop making excuses. You stop negotiating with your goals, and you start holding yourself to a higher standard because you understand that every choice matters. Every action either moves you closer to your purpose or pulls you further away from it, and on. So you become aware of that. You can't go back to living on autopilot. You can't go back to settling for less than what you're capable of. There will be days when it feels heavy, days when progress seems slow, days when no one notices the effort you're putting in. And in those moments, your discipline is being tested, your consistency is being challenged, but that's where growth lives. Not in the easy days, not in the moments when everything flows perfectly, but in the struggle and the resistance, in the choice to keep going when stopping would be easier. Because every time you push through those moments, you strengthen something inside yourself that no one can take away. Discipline teaches you to control your actions, but consistency teaches you to sustain them, and together, they create a force that is stronger than talent, stronger than luck, stronger than temporary bursts of motivation. Because anyone can start something, anyone can feel inspired for a moment, but not everyone can continue when the excitement fades. Not everyone can stay committed when the results are not immediate. And that's why those who master consistency stand apart. They don't rely on how they feel. They rely on who they have decided to become. You begin to realize that success is not a single moment. It's a series of choices made over time. It's built in the early mornings when you choose to rise instead of staying in bed. It's built in the late nights when you choose to keep going instead of giving up. It's built in the discipline to say no to distractions and yes to your purpose even when no one is watching. And those moments, those decisions, they shape your future in ways you may not even see right now. And then something changes. Not overnight, not in a dramatic flash, but gradually, steadily, you begin to see the results of your consistency. You begin to feel the strength of your discipline. Nay, and suddenly, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't have to convince people of your dedication, because it shows in your habits, in your mindset, in the way you carry yourself. And that's when your discipline and consistency become your loudest voice, speaking on your behalf without a single word being said. But this path requires patience. It requires faith in the process, because the results don't always come when you expect them. Sometimes they take time, sometimes they test your belief. And in those moments, you have to remind yourself why you started. You have to stay locked in on the bigger picture, understanding that every step you take is building something greater than what you can see right now. You are not just working for results. You are building character. You are shaping a mindset that refuses to quit, that refuses to settle, that refuses to settle, that refuses to be average. And that mindset will carry you further than anything else ever could. Because when discipline and consistency become a part of who you are, there is no limit to what you can achieve. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop relying on motivation to carry you, and start building the habits that will move you forward, no matter what. Show up for yourself every day. Put in the work, stay committed to the process, and trust that even when it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening beneath the surface. And one day, all that effort will rise, all that discipline will show, all that consistency will speak, and when it does, it will be louder than any words you could ever say. There is a quiet kind of greatness that does not chase attention, that does not feel the need to announce itself before the work is done. And that kind of greatness is built by those who understand the value of staying low-key while they are putting the pieces of their life together. Because when you remove the need to be seen, you gain the freedom to truly focus, to truly grow, and to truly build something that has depth, something that has meaning, something that lasts far beyond temporary recognition. A lot of people get caught up in the idea of being noticed, of showing the world every step, every plan, every move, but what they don't realize is that attention can become a distraction. It can pull you away from the very work that is required to create real success. Because when you start performing for people instead of improving for yourself, you lose your direction, you lose your discipline, and you start chasing applause instead of purpose. Staying low key is not about playing small, it's about playing smart. It's about understanding that your energy is valuable and your focus is limited. So you protect it, you guard it, you invest it wisely into the things that truly matter. Because not everyone needs access to your journey. Not everyone needs to know what you're building. And sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to stay silent and let your work develop without interference. There is strength in privacy. A kind of strength that allows you to make mistakes, to learn, to grow without the pressure of outside opinions weighing you down. Because when you are constantly exposed, every setback feels heavier, every delay feels more public. But when you move quietly, you give yourself the space to evolve, to refine your craft, to become better without the fear of being judged before you are ready. You begin to realize that success is not about how loudly you can talk about your goals. It's about how consistently you can work toward them, day after day without losing focus, without losing faith, and that kind of consistency requires discipline. It requires sacrifice. It requires a mindset that is not easily shaken by distractions or negativity. B. Oz, the truth is, not everyone will understand your vision, not everyone will support your journey, and if you allow their opinions to influence you too early, you risk losing something that was meant to grow into something powerful. There will be moments when it feels like you are being overlooked, moments when it seems like others are getting attention while you are putting in the work behind the scenes. But those moments are not signs of failure. They are part of the process. They are shaping your patience. They are strengthening your resolve. Because real success is not built overnight. It is built in silence, in consistency, in the willingness to keep going, even when no one is watching. And while you are staying low-key, something important is happening. You are building not just results, but character. You are developing habits, discipline, and resilience that will carry you far beyond any temporary spotlight, because when success finally comes, when your efforts begin to show, it will not just be about what you achieved, it will be about who you became in the process. And that is what makes it sustainable. That is what makes it real. People will eventually notice. Not because you demanded their attention, but because your life will reflect the work you put in. Your results will speak in ways that words never could. And suddenly, the same silence that once made you feel invisible will become the very thing that makes your success stand out, because it was earned. It was built without shortcuts, without constant validation, without the need for approval. There is something powerful about letting people talk about your life instead of you talking about it yourself, because when others see your growth, when they witness your progress, it carries a different kind of weight. It feels real. It feels authentic. It inspires in a way that words alone never can. And that is T. He kind of impact you want to have, not something that fades quickly, but something that leaves a lasting impression. But to reach that point, you have to stay committed to the process. You have to resist the urge to seek attention before the work is complete. You have to trust that what you are building in silence will one day be seen. And more importantly, it will be felt, because your journey is not about proving something to others. It is about becoming the best version of yourself. It is about fulfilling your purpose with focus and integrity. So keep your head down and your vision clear. Keep working even when it feels like no one notices. Keep building even when the results are not immediate, because every step you take is adding to something greater, something that will one day speak for itself. And when that day comes, you won't need to explain your journey. You won't need to convince anyone of your worth, because your life will tell the story. Your results will carry the message, and your silence will have built something so strong that it cannot be ignored. There is a certain kind of power that walks quietly, a presence that does not need to introduce itself or demand attention. And that power is built by those who understand the value of staying low-key while they are constructing a life that will eventually speak for itself. Because when you choose silence over showing off, focus over fame, and purpose over popularity, you begin to operate on a level that most people never reach, a level where your energy is protected, your vision is clear, and your progress is real. Too many people want the spotlight before they have earned the stage. They want recognition before they have put in the work, and that desire becomes a trap because it shifts their attention away from growth and places it on validation. And once that happens, they start performing instead of building. They start chasing approval instead of chasing excellence. And in the end, they end up with noise but no substance, attention but no real achievement. Staying low-key is not about hiding your ambition. It is about guarding it. It is about understanding that not every dream needs to be announced. Not every move needs to be shared. And not every step needs an audience. Because when you expose your plans too early, you invite opinions, doubts, and distractions that can slow you down or even pull you off course. But when you move in silence, you give yourself the space to grow without interference, to make mistakes without judgment, and to refine your path without pressure. There is discipline in keeping things to yourself, a kind of inner strength that develops when you stop seeking external validation and start relying on your own standards. Because when no one is watching, your true character is revealed, your habits are tested, and your commitment is proven, and that is where real growth happens. Not in the public eye, but in the quiet moments where you choose to keep going, even when it feels like no one cares, even when it seems like your efforts are invisible. And understand this. Just because your work is unseen does not mean it is unnoticed. Life has a way of revealing what is built with consistency and purpose. Because every late night, every early morning, every sacrifice you make is adding up. It is shaping your future in ways you may not fully understand right now. And one day, that work will become visible. Not all at once, but gradually, steadily, in a way that cannot be ignored. There will be times when you feel like you are falling behind, when you see others getting attention, recognition, and praise, while you are still in the process, still grinding in silence. And in those moments, you have to remind yourself why you started. You have to stay locked in on your own path, because comparison is a distraction. It pulls you away from your purpose and places your focus on something that does not serve your growth. And the truth is, everyone's journey is different. Everyone's timing is different. Everyone's timing is different. And if you stay committed to your own process, your time will come. What you are building is not just success. It is character, it is discipline, it is resilience. And those qualities cannot be rushed. They have to be developed over time through consistent effort and quiet determination. Because when success finally arrives, when your life begins to reflect the work you have put in, it will not just be about what you have achieved. It will be about who you have become. And that is what makes it sustainable. That is what makes it powerful. People will start to notice, not because you ask them to, but because your results will demand attention. Your growth will speak louder than anything you could have said, and suddenly, the same silence that once made you feel invisible will become the very thing that sets you apart. Because it shows that you did not rely on hype, you did not rely on shortcuts. You relied on discipline, consistency, and a vision that you refuse to abandon. There is something deeply impactful about letting your life do the talking. Because when others see your progress, when they witness the results of your hard work, it creates a level of respect that cannot be manufactured. It cannot be faked. It has to be earned. And that is the kind of respect that lasts, the kind that inspires, the kind that makes people pay attention, not to what you say, but to what you have done. So keep your focus where it belongs. On the work, on the process, on the daily actions that are shaping your future. Because every step you take in silence is building something greater than what you can see right now, and one day, all of it will come to get her, all of it will be visible, and people will talk about the life you have built, not because you told them to, but because it will be impossible to ignore. And when that moment comes, you will understand that staying low-key was never about being unseen. It was about becoming unstoppable in a way that speaks without saying a single word. There is a rhythm to greatness that most people never learn. A rhythm that is not loud, not flashy, not desperate for attention, but steady, intentional, and powerful. And it begins with learning how to focus in silence, because when you remove the noise, when you step away from distractions, opinions, and the constant urge to be seen, you give your mind the space it needs to lock in on what truly matters. you sharpen your vision, you strengthen your discipline, and you begin to operate with a level of clarity that separates you from those who are still chasing approval instead of purpose. Focusing in silence is not just about being quiet, it is about being deliberate. It is about training yourself to ignore what does not serve your growth and to invest your time and energy into what moves you forward, because the truth is, your attention is one of your most valuable assets. And where you place it will determine the direction of your life. If you scatter it on distractions, you will get scattered results. But if you concentrate it on your goals with intensity and purpose, you will begin to see progress that is real. Progress that builds momentum. Progress that cannot be stopped. Once your focus is in place, the next step is execution, and execution is where most people fall short. Because it requires action, not talk, not intention, not planning alone, but real, consistent effort applied day after day with power and commitment. Because it is not enough to know what you need to do. You have to be willing to do it even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is inconvenient, even when it feels like the results are too far away to matter. Executing with power means you do not approach your goals halfway, you do not give partial effort and expect full results. You show up with everything you have, every time, you give your energy, your focus, your discipline, without holding back, because you understand that greatness does not come from hesitation, it comes from decisive action. From the willingness to push forward even when doubt tries to creep in, even when fear tries to slow you down. There will be moments when execution feels heavy, when the work seems endless, when the progress feels invisible. And in those moments, your mindset becomes your greatest weapon, because if you allow frustration to take control, you will lose your rhythm, but if you stay grounded, if you stay committed to the process, you will continue to build, step by step, layer by layer, until what once felt difficult becomes part of who you are. And then comes the reveal, not the kind that is forced, not the kind that is announced with noise and attention-seeking, but the kind that happens naturally, the kind that cannot be hidden, because the results speak for themselves. Because when you have focused in silence and executed with power, your progress becomes visible in a way that does not require explanation. People see it in your growth, they see it in your discipline, they see it in the way you carry yourself, and the way you handle challenges, revealing through results, is the most powerful form of communication. Because it is rooted in truth, it is backed by effort, and it leaves no room for doubt, because anyone can talk, anyone can make promises, anyone can create an image, but not everyone can produce results. Not everyone can back up their words with consistent action. And that is why results carry a weight that words never will. Here is a confidence that comes from knowing you have put in the work. A quiet confidence that does not need validation, that does not seek approval, that stands firm because it is built on real effort and real growth. And when you reach that point, you no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone, because your life becomes the proof. Your journey becomes the evidence of what focus, discipline, and execution can create. But this path requires patience. It requires trust in the process, because the results do not always show up when you expect them. Sometimes they take time. Sometimes they test your faith. And in those moments, you have to stay locked in. You have to remind yourself that every step you take, every effort you make, is contributing to something greater. Something that is being built beneath the surface even if you cannot see it yet. You are not just chasing success. You are building a mindset, a standard, a way of operating that will carry you through every challenge and every opportunity that comes your way. Because when you master the ability to focus in silence, to execute with power, and to reveal through results, you create a system that cannot fail you, a system that continues to produce growth no matter the circumstances. So keep your focus sharp and your circle small. Protect your energy and your vision. Put in the work with intensity and purpose, and trust that when the time is right, everything you have built will show, everything you have worked for will become visible. And when it does, it will not need an introduction. It will not need an explanation. It will stand on its own, strong, undeniable, and powerful enough to speak for you without a single word being said. There comes a point in life when you have to decide whether you want to sound impressive or actually become impressive. whether you want people to hear about your plans or wit. Your results, and that decision changes everything. Because talking about what you are going to do may feel good in the moment, it may give you a sense of progress, but it does not move you forward. It does not build anything real. And if you are not careful, it becomes a habit that keeps you stuck in a cycle of intention. Without execution, a lot of people announce their moves because they are seeking validation. They want to be seen as driven, as ambitious, as focused, but there is a danger in that because the moment you start chasing approval, you lose sight of the work that actually matters. You begin to focus more on how things look than on how things are being built, and that shift weakens your foundation because success is not created through perception. It is created through consistent action taken over time. When you stop announcing your moves, you reclaim your energy, you take back the focus that was being scattered on explaining yourself to others, and you invest it where it belongs, in the work, in the process, in the daily habits that shape your future. Because every time you talk about your plans without following through, you create a gap between who you say you are and what you actually do. And over time, that gap erodes your confidence. It makes it harder to trust yourself. It makes it easier to settle for less than what you are capable of. But when you shift your focus from talking to doing, something powerful happens. You begin to build integrity with yourself. You begin to close that gap because your actions start to align with your intentions. And that alignment creates a different kind of confidence, not the kind that comes from external praise, but the kind that is rooted in knowing that you are showing up, that you are putting in the work, that you are moving forward regardless of who is watching proving your moves. Through outcomes requires decipher. Pline, it requires patience. It requires a willingness to stay committed even when there is no immediate reward because real results take time. They take effort, they take consistency, and there will be moments when it feels like nothing is happening. Moments when you are tempted to speak just to feel some recognition. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments where you either stay focused or fall back into the habit of seeking attention. There is a certain power in letting people underestimate you, in letting them assume that you are not doing much while you are quietly putting in the work because it removes pressure. It allows you to operate freely, to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, without the weight of expectations. And when the results finally show, they carry a different kind of impact because they were not forced, they were not announced. They were earned outcomes speak in a language that everyone understands because they are undeniable. They do not need explanation. They do not rely on opinions. They stand on their own, and when your life begins to reflect the work you have put in, when your progress becomes visible, you do not have to convince anyone of your dedication. Because it is clear, it is evident in the way you move, in the way you think, in the way you handle challenges, but this path is not easy. It requires you to resist the urge to share every step. It requires you to be comfortable with working in silence, with putting in effort that no one sees, with trusting that what you are building will eventually reveal itself. And that kind of patience is rare, because most people want immediate recognition. They want instant results. They want to feel validated now, but true growth does not work that way. It happens over time through consistent effort, through a commitment to the process. You begin to understand that your journey is odd about impressing others. It is about becoming someone you can respect, someone who follows through, someone who does not just speak about goals, but actually achieves them. And that shift in perspective changes how you approach everything. Because you stop looking for shortcuts, you stop looking for applause, and you start focusing on what truly matters: the work, the discipline, the consistency. And as you continue on this path, as you keep proving yourself through your actions, you will notice a change not just in your results, but in your mindset, in your confidence, in the way you carry yourself, because there is a quiet strength that comes from knowing that you are doing what needs to be done, that you are not relying on words to define you, that you are allowing your life to speak on your behalf. So stop announcing and start executing, stop explaining and start building, stop seeking validation and start creating results that cannot be ignored, because at the end of the day, it is not what you say that matters. It is what you do consistently, what you produce over time, what you prove through your actions, and when you commit to that, when you let your outcomes speak louder than your words. You step into a level of growth and success that does not need to be announced. It simply shows up, strong, undeniable.